More troubles for embattled Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. Thunder Bay's mayor urges provincial action to address assessment rollbacks. And still no word on when vehicles will be allowed to return to the swing bridge. Good evening and thank you for being with us. A new cell phone video has emerged of Toronto Mayor Rob Ford in an intoxicated, profanity-filled tirade.
The Toronto Star bought the video and put it on its website. This, as a former Rob ally, is proposing that City Council ask the province to remove the mayor from office. Ron Charles reports.
The context is as murky as the video's image. The mayor of Toronto in what looks like a private living room, swearing and threatening violence.
No holds barred, brother. He dies or I die, brother. I'm talking no. Brother, you've never seen me go, brother. So, brother, but when he's done that, I'll rip his throat out, I'll poke his eyes out, I will he's dead, I'll make sure that is dead.
The Toronto Star purchased the video from a source and posted it on its website this morning. Within minutes of that, Rob Ford was out in front of his office to address waiting reporters.
All I can say is, again, I've made mistakes. All I can do is reassure the people that I don't know what to say. I was extremely inebriated.
This city councillor says the video shows behavior unbecoming Toronto's mayor.
The video is obviously very disturbing, it's very upsetting, it's very sad.
But Toronto's deputy mayor was more forgiving.
This is obviously a private moment, and people in private often act differently than they do in public.
Meanwhile, a city councillor who is a Ford ally is proposing Toronto City Council ask the province to remove Ford from office.
We have told him that he needs to find the exit. He doesn't seem to be listening. And so if he won't find the exit, I think we have to show him the door.
It's not clear how much support he will get for that. Many councillors say the business of Toronto City Hall goes on with or without the mayor. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
Our mayor, Keith Hobbs, says he won't be resigning due to the frustrating battle between Milltowns and the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. But Hobbs does support the stand taken last week by Terrace Bay Mayor Mike King. King quit the mayor's job after roughly 3 decades at the council table. He wanted to mount a very public fight, not just against MPAC, but provincial politicians as well. But it was a battle his council didn't want to take on. The Thunder Bay mayor agrees it's time to start taking on that fight. He says the whole impact assessment process is a mess that's going to create chaos. Resolute Forest Products is looking to have its Thunder Bay pulp and paper mill reassessed from $74 million down to roughly $35 million. The mayor was part of a delegation last week in Toronto on the issue, and he says he's not happy with the process so far.
It would be a huge increase for taxpayers if we don't win this battle, and that's not just Thunder Bay, that's all over. If you look at Dryden, I think they had a payback of $5 million on a small community like that. It's an issue that municipalities have to fight hard, so I agree with Mayor King, that former Mayor King, unfortunately. I agree totally that we have to take this one to the wall.
Anita Birla has applied for a 92% reduction in the assessed value of the Terrace Bay Pulp Mill. If implemented, that would see a reduction from $27 million to just $2 million. That mill makes up 50% of Terrace Bay's tax base.
Victoria Avenue business owner feels she has a role to play in changing the neighborhood for the better. Shelby Chung has operated her bridal store in the area for a little over a year and feels the biggest negative is the perception of the area. Chung feels like people think the South Core is Gotham City without Batman. She admits there is vandalism and public intoxication, but also believes that happens in other parts of the city. Her store played host for a meeting with local merchants, the mayor, city manager, and others this week to discuss issues in the neighborhood and strategies. Chung wants to see the area meet its full potential.
We're going to be documenting every single infraction of public intoxication, where they come from, and getting police reports if we have to call the police officers in. And we're going to create a report that we're going to bring to the chief of police. And because we really want to see this neighborhood turn around. We want to see an end to the social chaos.
Chung says the merchants understand there is no money in the police budget for additional beat officers. However, she would like to see their hours changed around.
A 22-year-old man remains in hospital with serious injuries following a stabbing on South May Street. It happened around 8:20 last night when the victim was stabbed in the lower back with a large hunting knife. Police say the alleged attacker is known to them.
There's still no word on how long it will take to repair and reopen the James Street swing bridge. The north end of the bridge was the site of a massive blaze on October 29th. Fire investigators have not yet concluded their probe into the possible cause, but the fire is considered suspicious. The bridge is owned and maintained by CN Rail. The company was able to reopen the railway track over the bridge last week, but the 2 lanes for vehicles remain closed. CN officials are reviewing a consultant's report on the damage and the estimate for repairs. Company spokesperson Lindsay Fetishin says they will have more details by Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Our senior bridges and structures people just received the report. So his expectation is that he'll definitely need a few days to review prior to providing any indication of next steps. So it's definitely going to be a few more days. Like I said, these things do take time, and we want the job to be done properly, and we're going to review the report.
The bridge is normally used by about 9,000 vehicles per day. People heading to Mount McKay on Monday for the Remembrance Day ceremony should plan to use the alternate route on Highway 61 and Chippewa Road.
The City Engineering Division has ordered the contractor in charge of the Golf Links Road 4-laning project to fix a bumpy situation there. The section between Central Avenue and the Harbour Expressway recently received a top coat of asphalt, but the manhole covers along that route are set lower than the pavement, making them feel like a pothole to motorists. City project engineer Rick Harms says the manholes are normally in the center of the lane, so tires don't normally pass over them. But these are on the right, or are right in the wheel paths, and some of the drivers we spoke with today are not impressed.
Well, the car goes ba-doom, ba-doom, but you're going over them, and you can tell that they're there, and they should be fixed by now.
I wish they'd do something about that. It's right in the pathway of the vehicle, and it's going to cause a lot of front-end damage eventually.
That's okay, I think. I think people understand that they're trying to rush the jobs and get it done, you know what I mean? You gotta have a little patience, that's all. Slow down.
Harms says the contractor began repairing and raising the 5 offending manhole covers this afternoon. The next stage of the 4-laning project between Central Avenue and Oliver Road should be reopened to traffic on November 19th.
Highway 17 between Kenora and Vermilion Bay was closed for much of the day following a multi-vehicle accident. OPP say the early morning crash involved several transport trucks, many of which ended up in the ditch. The roadway was reportedly covered by black ice at the time. There were no serious injuries. At last report, 1 lane of the roadway had been reopened to traffic.
A Thunder Bay grain terminal that has sat idle for 3 years is now back up and running. As part of the Richardson buyout of Viterra back in May, the company took ownership of 2 elevators on Thunder Bay's waterfront. A record-setting harvest in Western Canada has been a major driver in reopening the facility. Richardson started loading rail cars 3 weeks ago and did its first vessel on Tuesday of this week. Some investments were needed to get the terminal back up and running. Operations Director Jerry Heinrichs says the future role of the previously mothballed elevator is still unknown.
Well, the facility provides us some opportunities that remain to be fully explored yet. Our initial plan right now, of course, is to use it as an overflow facility for our main plant. Once our main plant runs out of capacity, then we come over here and use this facility for excess storage, and we'll see where it goes in the future.
Richardson has 65 employees working at the 2 elevators. Heinrichs says even after the lake freezes up, they plan to continue shipping by rail. He says the record crop this year will keep things busy right through until next harvest.
Anishinaabe Nation chiefs, along with councillors, First Nation educators, and youth, came together to make a statement on the future of education. The announcement comes on the heels of a 3-day Chiefs Summit that brought together more than 200 delegates here in Thunder Bay. Discussions were held regarding Ottawa's newly proposed legislation for First Nation schooling. But as Courtney Rutherford reports, chiefs across the country are feeling angry and are taking matters into their own hands.
It was a packed house as a couple hundred people stood together in unity to declare that the future of education across the Anishinaabe Nation will not be based on federal legislation, but on their inherent right to self-government, including educational jurisdiction. NAN Grand Chief Harvey Esno says Canada has failed to meet its obligation to deliver education to First Nations students that's on par with the rest of the country.
When you look at, in comparison to other, whether it's the French school board or provincial school board, and what we get is far less. So as a result, we're not producing the children, the kind of education that they need to succeed when they go off to high school and beyond.
The declaration was endorsed by chiefs in Assembly following 3 days of meetings. The declaration claims the Government of Canada should acknowledge and respect their inherent right to education and to recognize their rejection of the First Nations Education Act. Deputy Grand Chief Goyce Kekagamek calls this a historic day that will help lay a path forward for the sake of their children and for generations to come.
Now we have a clear mandate for our educators, our principals, and our educators, program directors to move forward to make that dream a reality.
NAN will continue to negotiate with the federal government through the self-governance jurisdiction process to secure control of education across the nation. If granted, the change would stop the federal government from setting and enforcing standards for schools on reserves by allowing First Nations people to take control of their education while continuing to respect their culture, values, and traditions. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
Ontario Finance Minister Charles Sousa says that if the economy of Ontario weakens further, economic growth will trump hitting his target to eliminate the deficit. In his fall economic update, Sousa says the province is on track to get rid of the $11.7 billion deficit by 2017-18. But he says if the economy falters amid the slow and uncertain recovery from the global recession, the Liberals have decided to continue spending rather than worry about cutting costs to meet deficit targets.
Kenora Rainy River MPP Sarah Campbell brought up the controversial Grassy Narrows situation at Queen's Park today. The chief of Grassy Narrows is accusing Premier Kathleen Wynne of going back on her commitment to the First Nation following a decade-long battle over logging in the area. Campbell says the issue of logging licenses is endangering the province's relationship with First Nations, and she called on the Minister of Natural Resources to explain what the government plans to do.
Will this government commit today to coming to the table, engaging with Grassy Narrows in serious consultation, and obtaining their consent when it comes to activities within their traditional territory?
The forest license management plan that is actively being undertaken is inclusive of First Nations interests and rights, and we are very concerned and are very actively working with the First Nations to ensure their participation in this area that is so vital to their livelihood. So, Speaker, I'd say to the member opposite, we're going to continue to do that. We have a strong relationship in working with our First Nations, a strong partnership with First Nations, and I'm certainly very pleased with the progress that we've made.
With Remembrance Day on the horizon, students at a local elementary school got to hear a first-hand account of the Second World War from a veteran who was there. 92-year-old Ken McKay served in the Navy for 2 years during the war. He was part of multiple convoys that sailed back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean. Today, he was at Crestview Public School to share his stories and to remind students and staff about the importance of remembering our veterans. Matt Scooby reports.
With students fully engrossed, Ken McKay tells the story of how the ship he was on in the Second World War sunk a German submarine, how the 38 crew members from the sub were taken prisoner on the ship, and how he learned to communicate with a few of them. McKay blends his stories with commentary about why remembering his friends and classmates that sacrificed their lives is so important.
It'll let them know about what people that joined the service at a very young age, that they sacrificed their lives, a lot of them, and they lost a lot of their youth, while they were in the service.
Even though the war he was part of took place almost 70 years ago, McKay says it's the youngest generation that surprised him the most.
I think myself that the young people are becoming more aware of what the veterans did in the 2 world wars than it was, say, 30 years ago or so.
McKay doesn't know why that's the case, but when you talk to some of the students that attended the presentation, it's easy to see that he may be right.
I think everyone takes Remembrance Day as a huge thing to try and remember everyone that's been to war and what they've done for us, especially in our class. Like, we spend a whole week just learning about everything that's happened and what's current and what's past. I think it's really helpful because none of us have obviously been to war, so you need to know what it's like and learn more about it to understand it.
While he calls the men and women that lost their lives for our country the real heroes, there were lots of kids left awestruck by McKay's words.
I thought it was very inspiring and very incredible. That really changed what I thought about all of Remembrance Day and, just war itself.
I thought it was actually really incredible. Like, I couldn't actually imagine someone in that moment. Like, he's actually at our school. It's unbelievable he was in the war, and I have great respect for him.
Matt Scooby, TBT News.
Thunder Bay's Animal Control Shelter is asking you to love an experienced cat. A 2-week campaign starts tomorrow with pet adoption fees reduced by 75% for senior and long-term cats. Older cats are often mature, calm, and well socialized, but these feline friends are often overlooked by adopters because of their age. Animal services officials say older cats are great for first-time pet owners and people who don't have the time or energy to deal with a frisky younger kitten. The shelter is hoping the reduced fees will provide an incentive for people to take a second look at these cats. Pet adoption fees will be reduced from $200 to just $50 for each senior or long-term cat.
For that, you're getting obviously a great cat. You're getting a cat that's spayed or neutered. We vaccinate them, we deworm them, we microchip them. They're treated for internal parasites, and we also throw in a 6-week free complimentary pet insurance and a starter pet adoption kit.
The Love and Experience Cat program ends November 22nd. More information and a list of available cats can be found on the Animal Shelter's website.
Well, you know, Matt, I've got a frisky young cat, and you can sure tell it's getting cold out because even the frisky young cat doesn't want to go outdoors. Sure a sign that winter's just around the corner.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. Some chillier temperatures recently. That's going to continue. But you know what? Dogs, might not mind the snow a little bit. Maybe not the dog last week you saw here, but that's okay. You know who had a lamb? Penny, Jamie, good buddy, his daughter Penny was a lamb for Halloween. She was adorable, so that's much better. They might not like the cold as well, though, as that you can see. Chilly temperatures through today. Not very nice, that's for sure. And again, that's going to continue over this weekend. It's going to get a little bit warmer, but very cool. And that wind today picking up not very nice indeed. Just 2 degrees is our high today, overcast. So no sun to even warm things up a little bit as well. And as I mentioned, some chilly temperatures, wind gusting up to 34 kilometers an hour coming out of the northwest as well. So again, really chilly, and we're going to see some precipitation as some of the region is seeing right now. As you see up in Pickle Lake and Sioux Lookout, -2, -1 respectively, but seeing some flurries right now. A little bit warmer towards the border, but as you have a look, Greenstone along the North Shore as well, also seeing some flurries right now, sitting right above the freezing point at this point. So again, it's coming. Randy just mentioned it. It is coming, and expect some of that snow and some of that white stuff to start accumulating very shortly. Tonight, we are going to reach a low of -6 degrees, not until about 4 o'clock this morning, but it is going to get chilly overnight. Clouds are going to clear about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock tonight as well, so we'll finally have some clear skies overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Wind's going to stay up there, gusting up to 22 kilometers an hour. Tomorrow we're still going to remain cold, and we're just on the cusp of this system of this low moving into the region, to the south bringing showers, to the north bringing some snow. So we're going to part of that is going to move into the region on Saturday. And as you see with this weekend, with that jet stream still staying, we're still above that jet stream. That low is going to come out, and then you see that Arctic blast that's going to come. It's going to hit us about Monday or Tuesday as well. So not pleasant. I wish I had better news, but I will have more details coming up later in the news hour.
That makes sure the snow scraper's in the car, just in case, right?
That is very true.
All right, thanks very much, Matt. Well, federal Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is in some hot water over Toronto fundraisers that some people have labeled sexist. We'll have details for you right after these words.
I think that he thinks that he's putting in an ad for eHarmony rather than running for Prime Minister.
It's an event titled Justin Unplugged, a chance to really get to know the federal Liberal leader.
Organizers of the fundraiser in Toronto say the invitation to hear Justin Trudeau speak was meant to elicit interest and intrigue, but critics are calling it patronizing and an insult to women. Julie Van Dusen reports.
Madam Fraser, hi, very nice to meet you.
Justin Trudeau's organizers have no problem throwing him into a crowd. He seems to love mixing and mingling.
Thank you.
Now an invitation for an event tonight in Toronto has sparked criticism. It's a fundraiser for Liberal women candidates at $250 a ticket. The key pitch, ladies, you're invited to really, in brackets, get to know the future Prime Minister. Tories are all over this.
What does that mean? I don't want to get to know him. I want to know what their policies are. You know, that's part of voting, is analyzing what the parties do.
I think that he thinks that he is putting in an ad for eHarmony rather than running for Prime Minister.
So is the NDP. Tom Mulcair says he talks to women about issues like the right to choose and pay equity.
He's obviously hearing different things from women than what I'm hearing.
Justin Trudeau grew up with a father whose cachet was legendary. Women threw themselves at Pierre Trudeau. There was a name for all of that frenzied chasing, Trudeau-mania.
He was born with a famous name.
It's not the first time Tories have zeroed in on Justin Trudeau. They used this footage from a charity event to ridicule him as part of an attack ad.
All right, come on over, Georgia.
Organizers of the event said the invite was meant to be lighthearted and creative, that the intent was not to offend anybody. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
They're suspended without pay, but Senators Pamela Wallin, Patrick Brazeau, and Mike Duffy will continue to accrue eligibility for a generous parliamentary pension. The Senate confirms the 2 years that the trio are expected to spend in political purgatory will count towards the 6 years of service they need to become eligible to collect a pension. Treasury Board President Tony Clement says if necessary, he'll change the regulations to ensure Wallin, Duffy, and Brazeau do not qualify.
After months of heated debate, the Quebec government tabled its controversial Charter of Values today. The Parti Québécois wants to ban public sector workers from wearing overt religious symbols at work. Whether it gets passed is another matter. Thomas Daigle reports.
And the religious neutrality of the state.
At a Montreal college today, a debate over the Charter of Values. The same debate going on around water coolers and kitchen tables throughout Quebec.
If it passes, I don't think, I'm not planning on staying here in Montreal.
The charter has deeply divided Quebecers in the months leading up to its tabling today at the legislature.
It's very inclusive, but it cannot be more inclusive as far as I'm concerned.
The PQ says it wants to promote equality between men and women and show religion no longer has influence on the state. So it's banning overt religious symbols for public sector employees, from nurses to daycare workers. The opposition says the government's move sends a clear message.
We are besieged. We are under threat. Therefore, in order to react to that perception, we have to limit our citizens, our fellow citizens' rights. It's a wrong signal to send to the rest of the country.
The federal government suspects the bill violates the right to freedom of religion.
I think it would pretty clearly violate the constitutional principles as defined by the Supreme Court of Canada under the Charter of Rights.
The provincial government contends the charter will actually unite Quebecers. It won't say if an employee would be fired, for instance, for refusing to remove a headscarf.
And we think in the end we will convince the vast majority of our employees to respect the law and stay within the service.
Hospitals may request a transition period of 5 years or more to comply with the rules, but all new public sector employees will need to comply immediately, making the charter all the more pressing for those about to join the workforce. The minority PQ government needs opposition support for the charter to become a law, but that support isn't guaranteed, leading many to believe the PQ will seek a majority government in a spring election and let voters decide the fate of the charter. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Montreal.
That foaming hand sanitizer, found everywhere from hospitals to airports, is at the center of a lawsuit that pits the inventor against his former employer. Mexican immigrant Francisco Munoz says he invented the chemical process that turns alcohol to foam 10 years ago in Brantford, Ontario, and he's got the patent to prove it. He alleges his employer at that time got him to unwittingly sign away his rights and then dismissed him from his job. Today, that company is making millions from the sale of the hand sanitizer products. Munoz, well, he's received nothing. Evan Dyer reports.
Hello and welcome to Deb Group. From the inventors of foaming technology,
British-owned Deb Group describes itself as the inventor of the technology that turns alcohol to foam. But the patent lists the inventors as Francisco Munoz, his wife, and a friend. A decade ago, some hospitals found their staff weren't using sanitizer as much as they should because the alcohol gel was irritating their skin. The industry knew one solution was to find a way to make alcohol foam. That, however, was thought to be chemically impossible.
You're going to see the effect the alcohol made in a solution with foam.
But Munoz and his wife, Maria Teresa, had discovered an ingredient that could make alcohol foam. And over the next few years, working partly, they say, in a basement lab in their own home, they developed a hand sanitizer that was seen as superior to those already on the market. Today, the product they invented is all over the world, from hospitals to airports. But Munoz's patent ended up in the hands of his employer, Deb Group. Deb says it paid Munoz $2 for the worldwide rights to this product, and that was all he ever expected to obtain. Munoz says he never received even that payment. He says he was called in to sign some papers, told only they were for the patent, and only later learned he'd signed his rights away.
We are alleging in our case that this was signed without Francisco knowing what he was signing, and in particular without him having any legal advice on the consequences of what he was signing.
The day after Munoz signed the document transferring control of his invention to Deb Group, Deb fired him.
Since they fired him in 2007, I've been unable to find a job. I tried, but it's not easy, and every year is harder because I'm not getting younger. So it's been very rough on me. That's what happened.
Ottawa labor lawyer Paul Champ says Munoz's strongest argument is that he gave up something valuable in return for little or nothing.
It's one of the first things you learn in law school, that every contract has to have some value back and forth. And here, it looks like Mr. Munoz signed this document without any extra compensation.
Munoz isn't seeking money, but says he wants Deb to share with him the rights to his invention. Deb's lawyers declined to discuss the case, but Deb says Munoz knew what he was signing, or should have, and has only his own carelessness to blame if he didn't. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
All right, here's what was happening on the markets today. In Toronto, the TSX finished 86 points lower at 13,294. The Dow fell 153 points to 15,593. The Nasdaq dropped 74 to 38.57. The dollar fell back 0.4 cents to 95.59 cents U.S. Gold slipped $9 to $1,308 an ounce, and oil was down 60 cents to $94.20 a barrel. After a couple of tough losses at home last weekend, Lakehead University Thunderwolves on the road hoping to turn their fortunes around.
Yeah, it's time to start up conference play again and build on that 5-1 record against a team that they don't normally see all that often in Laurentian. Well, your Thunderwolves hockey team, if you recall, lost both of its non-conference games against Alberta last weekend, but Lakehead did play the #1 team in the country incredibly tough. For instance, Friday night, the Wolves led at 5-3. Heading into the third, and to that point of the game, had played arguably their best hockey of the season. Now the team is in Sudbury for a pair of games against Laurentian. Now tonight's game will kick off a stretch in which the Wolves play 6 of 8 on the road to finish off the first half. That's no easy task, according to head coach Bill McDonald.
We have to be good through the whole month, and our focus has to be in practice and getting better as the month progresses, and trying to get some points out of this month, because it is a trying month with a lot of road trips. So it'll be tough, but what I've seen at practice and the attitude, I think we can come out of it pretty good.
We just need to play simple hockey again, like we did against Alberta. We need to get pucks in deep. We need to stay disciplined, which is huge. We need to play good in our own zone. We need to do the little things that win hockey games in this league. And again, the 40 minutes against Alberta, that's what we're patterning ourselves after for the rest of the year.
The Wolves will be without Trevor Gamache against the Voyageur. He has an outside commitment and did not travel with the team. They're also without Keith Grondin, who's dealing with an upper body injury. Third-year goalie Jeff Bosch isn't quite ready to make his season debut, but his injured knee is almost healed. He says he could be back on the ice next weekend at home.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at, is talk to the medical staff, and that's kind of the hope is next weekend for a home series, but we'll kind of see how it feels through practice. I'm going to skate while the team's on the road this weekend here at home, and hopefully progress all week, and hopefully get my conditioning up to the level where I'm ready to go next weekend.
Also on the Lakehead varsity front, both basketball teams welcome the Carleton Ravens to the Fieldhouse tomorrow night in their home openers. The Wolves are both 1-1. The volleyball team looks to improve on its 2-2 record in Hamilton tomorrow night against McMaster. Now here's Ryan Benazzo with this week's Thunderwolves Player Profile.
This Thunderwolves Player Profile is brought to you by Frankie's Pizzeria. Pickup or delivery.
Coach Bill McDonald raves about the potential of freshman D-man Nathan Briere, especially in the offensive zone. The rookie is already getting significant power play minutes, and when you can shoot the puck like he can, why not?
Billy has a friend that watched me play a lot last year, and coming from where I played last year, I was the #1 guy for the power play, and they set me up for that shot a lot, but it's different coming into this year. Like, we have a lot of guys that can move the puck around, so we just got to go from there.
Is that though you think one of the strengths that you bring is that big booming shot?
Could be, but that's not what I really want to be known for. I want to be known for a really defensive guy.
But in order for that to happen, he'll have to develop in the defensive zone. He knows he's got to avoid costly turnovers like this one from last weekend. The Wolves would go on to lose that game against top-ranked Alberta 7-5, but the Eagle Lake, Ontario native is willing to work at his craft. Back home, he'd spend nearly every waking hour that he wasn't in school practicing on the ice.
That's basically what I did as a kid. I'd come home from school, go right to the rink, and I'm there right till 10, so that helped a lot.
Why was that something that you wanted to focus on as a kid?
Just from growing up in a small community, I had family members that played hockey, and I grew up watching hockey. From there on in, I just loved the game.
Briere came to the Wolves by way of the OCN Blizzard of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, but he's always remembered his Northwestern Ontario roots, and even though he now plays for Lakehead, he admits he still has a bit of a love-hate relationship with Thunder Bay hockey teams.
I grew up losing at Thunder Bay a lot when I was a kid, and I wasn't very fond of it, but all over, like guys from all over Northwestern Ontario, like Kenora, like we always played Thunder Bay growing up, and there's always some tension.
Hopefully some road success against Laurentian will help relieve some of that long pent-up frustration. The Wolves wrap up a 2-game series against the Voyageurs on Friday.
This Thunderwolves Player Profile was brought to you by Frankie's Pizzeria. Fresh is better.
A busy night in the NHL with 11 games. Ottawa opens a 5-game homestand against Montreal. We'll have that for you on Thunder Bay Television, CKPR at 7 o'clock. Tampa Bay takes on Edmonton. Calgary is in St. Louis, and Vancouver plays at San Jose. Now let's check out last night's action. Chicago strikes twice late in the first to take control of this one. First up, Winnipeg native Jonathan Taves burns his home team with his 8th of the season on El Montoya. Then it's the slick Patrick Kane, 2:25 later, getting his 9th as he coasts in. He'll go 5-hole on Montoya with only 5 seconds to go in the period. The only goal of the second came off this headsy pass, taped to tape by Ben Smith to Brandon Peary, and last year's leading scorer of the American Hockey League had his 3rd. Then early in the 3rd, it's Thunder Bay's own Patrick Sharp off the turnover, roofing his 4th. Chicago grounds the Jets 4-1. And in the Big Apple, Ryan McDonough threads the needle for his 3rd. Derek Stepan would add another as the Rangers upset the Penguins 5-1. Elsewhere, Nashville top Colorado 6-4, and Anaheim trips up Phoenix 5-2. Thunder Bay's Krista McCarville is on the verge of elimination at the Olympic pretrial curling playdowns, losing on Last Rock 8-7 this morning to Edmonton's Val Swinning. Her record drops to 1-2 in the triple knockout event. And we're less than 3 months away from the start of the Winter Olympics in Russia. At the last Winter Games in Vancouver, our cross-country skiers came very close to medaling, something they're intent on doing early in the new year.
They've been training all out since spring. Their sights set on the Sochi Olympics in February.
There's still a lot of training to cover, a good portion of the season as well. So yeah, on that part, that's the calmer part, I guess. You know, it's going to be putting the blocks in to be able to get the best performances in Sochi. But at the same time, excitement for sure, because I mean, we've been training since May.
In the history of the Olympic Games, the Canadian men's cross-country ski team has never won a medal, but they came so close in getting to the podium just 4 years ago in Vancouver.
Since the last Olympics in Vancouver, people expect a lot from us, and we'll try to accomplish that. That's what we were training for the last 4 years.
Chandra Crawford is one of 3 women to win an Olympic medal for Canada. Since Vancouver, she's battled injuries and fatigue, even taking considerable time off from competing and training.
I keep going because I love skiing and I love the struggle. And it was a struggle to get to 06, and it's a struggle after 06. And I don't cross-country ski because it's easy. I cross-country ski because it's worth it.
Babakov was born and lived in Russia before becoming a Canadian citizen. He's competed in the Olympics for both Canada and Russia. Sochi will be a unique experience.
Yes, probably going into that, I'll be excited, and I'll be all that stuff going through my head. But as soon as the gun goes off on the trail and I see all my competitors and ski tracks, I think it's just going to be another race. It's a really important race, but it goes down to just being focused on what you're doing and how you're skiing.
Well, coming off a 9-point loss to the Miami Heat Tuesday night, the Raptors were back at it last night, heading to Charlotte, North Carolina, a place they have not won at in over 3 years, and it would be the Bobcats coming out on fire, taking a 14-point lead into the second. Gerald Henderson catches DeMar DeRozan flat-footed as he hits from the top of the key. The Raps battle back to tie it in the second, thanks to 9 points from Tyler Hansbrough, who ironically enough played his college ball at North Carolina, but the Bobcats take a 6-point lead into the fourth. Henderson misfires, who eventually get the ball back, threading to Josh McRoberts for the throwdown. Dunk of the game, it went to Toronto's Rudy Gay off this pass from point guard Kyle Lowry, but it wasn't looking good for the Raps when Kemba Walker with a sweet feed finds Bismack Biyombo for the layup. And then Michael Kidd-Gilchrist off the fast break soars in for 2 of his 14 as the Cats tame the Raptors 92-90. Gay had 20 points in a losing cause, and things don't get any easier for Toronto. They take on the Indiana Pacers Friday night. Also, Week 10 in the NFL kicks off tonight. It's Minnesota against Washington. The Redskins are 3-5. The Vikings, nobody wants to know their record, but they're 1-7.
I won't be any better after tonight either,
That's
I'm
for sure.
Okay, thanks very much, Randy.
Most likely. Randy mentioned it. Some hockey tonight on CKPR Thunder Bay after we're done here on the News Hour with your full lineup. Here's Teletalk.
Tonight, enjoy the laughter, the music, and the mystery on Global Thunder Bay. First at 8 on Happily Divorced, Judy's ex wants to renew the romance. But has he changed? At 8:30 on The Millers, to reunite his parents, Nathan tries appealing to their sentimentality. Then at 9 on Glee, New Directions must decide if they're more Katy Perry or Lady Gaga. And at 10 on Elementary, Holmes investigates a case involving his brother's former fiancée. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay, the puck hits the ice for Hockey Night in Canada. And at 7 p.m., the Montreal Canadiens take on the Ottawa Senators at Canadian Tire Place. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Well, it's a chilly day here in Thunder Bay, but Matt, other places across the country seeing unseasonably warm weather.
Yeah, in fact, they are parts of the country. Maritimes and out west, the prairies and stuff, seeing similar to what we're seeing right now. It's funny because Holly might have tripped up on that just because we're just talking about food off camera and just starving around here right now, but that's okay. So right now, before we get to dinner, in case you haven't had dinner already, but here you go, 2 degrees, overcast and chilly, today's high. Mostly cloudy skies. Kind of looked like it was going to rain for most of the day, or we were going to get some precipitation of some form, but it held off, which is good news, and clouds are going to clear later tonight. That wind gusting up to 34 kilometers an hour. Let's have a look at what Holly was just talking about across the country right now. 10 degrees in Vancouver and just 0 up in Prince George. But Vancouver, that's nice degrees. They are under similar cloud conditions as us right now, but much warmer. Not so much for Edmonton and Calgary, though. -6 in Edmonton. Calgary under some cloud cover as well, just at 1 degree. But hey, they are above the freezing mark because that's not the case for the prairie. Saskatoon, -2. Regina at 2 degrees, mainly sunny skies. Winnipeg at -1. Churchill at -7. They are seeing some flurries right now in northern Manitoba. Moving into southern Ontario, It's 3 degrees in Toronto right now, and then those sky conditions clear into Ottawa and Montreal. 0 degrees at the freezing mark there, and in Quebec City a little bit warmer as well at 2 degrees. But have a look at the Maritimes right now. Wonderful temperatures for them. Maybe not sky conditions, it is raining right now. But how about 13 in Charlottetown? And Fredericton, 7, 12 in Halifax, and 12 in St. John's. And clear skies in St. John's right now. So some beautiful temperatures in the Maritimes right now, much higher than what we should be seeing for this time of year. Having a look at that systems map, that low is going to move in very quickly into the region tomorrow. That's what's going to come across the prairies, southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba. That's going to move into our region late tomorrow night. So late Friday night is when we could see the start of the rain and some snow. And then moving into Saturday is when that low really gets, and you see some of the dark green is when we really could see some flurries, mainly depending on the temperature and how cold things get. We also could see a mix of rain in there as well. So possibly some not so good playing conditions for the junior football final on Saturday at the stadium. But again, it is going to be warmer. That is the good news with that low. It's going to be warmer than what it's been. Having a look tonight across the region, look at Uppsala, -10. That is your cold spot for the region tonight. Going to be a little bit chilly. Again, most of those temperatures, -5, -6, -7, right across the board, no matter where you go, as opposed to Sault Ste. Marie, where it is 0. They are going to see some flurries as well tonight into tomorrow. Those flurries are going to continue for Sault Ste. Marie at 4 degrees tomorrow. And then one just above the freezing mark along the North Shore, Greenstone and Marathon. Going to see a rain-snow mix as well tomorrow. As I told you, that system moving into Fort Francis, Atikokan and Kenora area. So they're going to see the start of that starting about midday tomorrow. As we have a look at right now, Thunder Bay, 0 degrees, cloudy skies. So right at the freezing mark right now. Tonight we're going to drop down. Our low is -6, not until early tomorrow morning, as I mentioned earlier, clearing about 10, 11 o'clock tonight. So those clouds are going to dissipate and will remain that way until, again, later tomorrow night. That wind, though, going to gust up again overnight to 22 kilometers an hour. That will taper off for tomorrow, which is good news. Tomorrow morning, partly cloudy, chilly, though, -2 when take the kids to school or getting off to work. Again, not much wind to speak of. Tomorrow, sun comes out to play tomorrow afternoon, Friday afternoon. Enjoy it for the few hours that you can tomorrow, because it's going to disappear on us again this weekend, that's for sure. As we have a look at that 5-day forecast, as I mentioned on Saturday, flurries. We could see an accumulation this time. We could see up to 1 centimeter accumulating. If there is rain mixed in, not so much. But again, it just depends on how cold it gets. Sunday, 30% chance of flurries or rain. And that wind is going to pick back up again on Sunday as well. Not ideal, that's for sure, as we've seen. Going to make things a little bit more chilly. And then on Monday, how about -1 down to -11 for the low on Monday night. And that's going to, cold weather is going to remain into Tuesday as well. So getting chilly again early next week. And we could see some of that snow. Yeah, it's coming this weekend.
It's time to visit the Thunder Bay and District Humane Society shelter, where Fiona Gardner introduces us to a cat named Bubbles.
Hi, I'm Fiona Gardner, and this week's Humane Society Pet of the Week is a 7-year-old chatterbox named Bubbles. She is a medium hair lady who is here at the Humane Society looking for a new home. She is kind of a full-figured gal and really loves to keep moving. Not a huge cuddler, but she'll settle in eventually. If you have other pets in the home, no problem. Bubbles will love to chat with them as well. If you think you've got the space in your life and your home for this lovely girl, drop by the Humane Society and ask to speak to Bubbles.
Your Pet of the Week has been brought to you by Thunder Pet. Expert advice and high-quality pet food within your budget.
Randy mentioned earlier that the Sochi Winter Olympics set to start in about 3 months' time, and I know participants looking for just a great experience. A bit of an out-of-this-world element was added to the games today. We'll have details right after these words. A special delivery today at the International Space Station.
And hatches open between the Soyuz spacecraft and the International Space Station.
Yes, the Olympic torch is on board. Russian cosmonauts will take the torch on its first ever spacewalk this Saturday. No, Matt, it won't be lit. It's all part of the longest torch relay ever. Unbelievable.
I had to ask the question.
I'm not going to like that thing at the space station. I'm sorry.
We're going to recap our top story. Well, there's more bad news for Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. New video surfaced today of Ford in an intoxicated, profanity-filled tirade, and City Council is now proposing to the province to remove the mayor from council.
We have a rare Thursday night game as the Thunderwolves resume conference play. They're in Sudbury tonight to take on Laurentian, and we'll have the result for you later on.
Nice day tomorrow, bit warming up just a little bit tomorrow and for the weekend, but some snow and rain on the way for the weekend as well. So not so good news there.
So enjoy it while you can.
Exactly.
All right, and that'll do it for tonight's look at news, weather, and sports. A reminder for News on Demand, please log on to tbnewswatch.com. Thank you all for being with us, and we'll see you again tomorrow.